Welcome back to the Greg's World podcast channel. It's been a little bit since I've uploaded an episode here, although I did make kind of a podcast episode on Greg's World. I actually made a video documenting my goals for 2023, and I felt like that was the best place to put it because that gives people an idea of what to expect on that channel, even though they may not necessarily be into the podcast content, which is why I made this channel, so people that like this can come over here and find it. Unfortunately, the last few weeks, you didn't find much of anything. In fact, I think the last episode I did was our Disney follow-up video where I talked all about that, which was in the middle of December. Well, after that, things kind of took a turn for the worse. I ended up getting sick that day that I was making that episode. I think I might have mentioned it in the episode that I wasn't feeling the greatest. In fact, I think I talked about how closing my eyes felt so much better. Well, yeah, that sickness, I'm not sure what it was. Was it COVID? Was it not? But it was with me for about 2 weeks, all the way up until right about Christmas time. I had kind of like a cough. I was feeling pretty tired at the beginning. I didn't lose my taste or smell or anything like that, but I was just feeling kind of low energy and like my chest. It was all in my chest, and I did have like a runny nose at one point. It really sucked, and it took the wind out of my sails. That compounded with the fact that all I was doing for like that entire week was editing Disney videos, because for every day that I recorded at Disney, that was about 1.5 to 2 hours of footage that I was cutting down to a 15-minute video. And that takes a lot of time to go through all of that. Like, you're essentially watching all the footage and then chopping it down and then slicing it even more because you want it to be like a nice, short, consistent storyline with all the right cuts. And I would spend most of my day kind of editing that. So as a result of that, No Zero Days definitely took a hit because it was like, man, this is all I'm doing. So I wasn't recording much of that. And then with this episode, I feel like this is all excuses, which I guess it is, but it's also an explanation. Christmas kind of fell right when these episodes come out, so I skipped that week, and then the next week was New Year's. So we had a little bit of a rough run for my consistency, which happens to be one of my goals for this coming year, specifically related to this channel. If you do want to watch all of my goals or listen to all my goals, they are uploaded as an audio podcast to the Greg's World podcast directory. If you want to listen to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever else you listen to it, you can hear that, or you probably saw it in Greg's World because most of you probably have come from either Brickitect or Greg's World. I don't think this is the place where people traditionally find me on YouTube. This is like an extra thing, an ancillary thing, I suppose. But one of my goals for this particular channel is to be very consistent with these episodes and to make 52 podcast episodes in 2023, assuming that there's 52 Sundays in 2023. I haven't done the math on it yet. So I'm going to do one of those episodes every week, even though we do have pretty extensive travel plans. I'm going to try to work around that, whether I need to record maybe a little bit earlier or maybe even do an episode on the road, which is not something I typically like to do because I don't like to advertise when we're gone. So I'd like to leave that as a mystery, and then kind of when I come back, I'll be like, surprise, we went to some pretty awesome places. And in February, we actually have something like coming up, which I'll talk about here more towards the end. But yeah, I want to make an episode every week for you. I'm trying to decide if I want to continue with the 3 question series. I looked in the box here before I started this, and I have about 7 weeks of questions left. So I'm thinking about maybe just knocking that out. I don't like to be an incompletionist. I want to get those done. The business meeting podcast, I kind of dropped off. Again, my ultimate thing I think I want to do here is to do my weekly podcast episode every week, and then maybe have another day where I get on for like 30 minutes and make it like a live stream or something where we can just chat and hang out and talk about maybe things that you guys are interested in instead of just about my life and whatnot. But that might be a little hard, being that this is more of a condensed audience, and I imagine a lot of people that listen to these probably have lives. And unfortunately, like, the best time for me to do something like that would be like maybe like a Friday afternoon, maybe like right after I record these. Today is Friday, January 6th, by the way, 12:07 p.m. So if I were to do that at like, I don't know, say 1 p.m. on a Friday, I don't know how many people would actually be there and how productive that would actually be. So I'm not sure if that live idea would actually work, or maybe a better idea would be for me just to do a post each week, or maybe even look through the comments of this episode and be like, what do you guys want to talk about next week? And I'll just I could do it live, but have like a list of things to already prepared to talk about. So I'm not sitting here being like, so what do you guys, what's up? And then there's like one person watching and no one in the chat. That would suck. That wouldn't be a good experience for anyone. But it's kind of like, I like that idea. I like doing something that's like engaging, I think. So I want to do that, but I'm definitely for sure doing the the missing pieces or the Greg's World podcast or whatever this thing is, my audio journal. I'm doing that every week consistently because I know a lot of people enjoy that. And I appreciate you guys actually caring enough to want to hear me talk about the things that are going on in my head and my life. So that's the plan, and I plan to stick to the plan. That was a sentence. So I ended up feeling a little bit better right around Christmas time, which was wonderful. I was like, please don't let me be sick for Christmas. Clark Man started getting a little snotted up right before Christmas, and I was like, no, please don't let me give it to him. But he was good. Thankfully, nobody was actually sick on Christmas. So we had Christmas Eve with my mother and father-in-law, and then we had Christmas morning here. You guys saw the video on that of Clark Man opening his gifts and stuff. Right after that, the next day, we went and ended up going to out near Pittsburgh to visit my brother and sister-in-law, and we spent a few days there hanging out with them. We went to the mall. I did end up going to the Lego store there, but I didn't make a video because there really wasn't much there that we don't already have. So there wasn't like something we're actively looking for. I looked at the Pick-a-Brick cup in the back, and I was like, there's really nothing. So it was a pretty uneventful trip there, but we did go to the Cheesecake Factory, and we went out for dinner and did all that stuff, and we hung out with them. So that was a nice trip. December 28th is my birthday, and I spent my birthday driving back from their house, which wasn't that fun, but I did get my favorite pepperoni pizza on the way back, so that was all I could ask for my birthday. If you're wondering what I got for Christmas for my birthday, I specifically told Cody not to get me anything because everything that I want, I already have. But I did get myself a little bit of a gift that I ended up putting together on not Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve. And you can see it behind me here. I actually got a full-on arcade cabinet. It's an At Games Legends Ultimate. I actually had before like the little desktop unit that you could plug into a TV and I would stream from that. And mine stopped working, so I ended up getting this Atari Couchcade type thing, and we were playing with that and had like maybe 10 games on it or something. And I spent a little over $100 on that. But when I was on Slick Deals, I think it was like right before Christmas, they had that thing, which is usually $700, on sale through Sam's Club for $350. I wasn't a member of Sam's Club, so I had to sign up for that, which cost me $50. So technically it cost me $400. But now I have that, which I assembled on the last day of 2022. And I guess I didn't film it because I was like, this kind of sucks, like actually doing this, and I don't want to make a video on it. So I was just building it and kind of enjoying my time doing it, which wasn't too hard to build. But now I have a Sam's Club membership for the next year, and hopefully I can go there and find enough deals and savings to offset the $50, which I think will be very easy to do. If you don't know what Sam's Club is, I guess it's like the equivalent of Costco. We don't have a Costco near us, nor do we have a Home Depot. So we have Sam's Club and we have Lowe's. Other people have Costco and Home Depot, and maybe those stores are better, but that's what we're stuck with. So I got a half-priced arcade cabinet, and I got a Sam's Club gift membership. So I put that together. If you guys haven't seen this before, it comes preloaded with a ton of games, but then I have this thing where I followed this tutorial online where you put even more games on a USB stick, and then I put that in there, and now I have pretty much every arcade game that's ever been made. And there's two control panels up there. There's one control panel, but room for two people to play. It has all like a trackball. It has a spinner. It's got everything that you would want. And Clark and I have been having fun with that. I haven't made any videos on it though. I don't think I've even talked about it in my vlog or anything. But it's cool and it's there. So that was kind of like a highlight of my Christmas. And again, I kind of bought that for myself. But Merry Christmas to me and Happy New Year to me. Brought in the new year by watching the movie Willow on TV. We didn't go to any like crazy parties or anything like that. We were just home. We did make some little New Year's Eve favorites. I make these little cocktail weenies that are delicious that my mom made for my childhood. And Cody made buffalo chicken dip, which is one of her specialties. And that happened to also be like the last night that I was like really bawling out of control with food. And I had been doing that pretty much ever since the Disney experience, which will kind of lead me into one of my goals for this year that you probably have as well, which is kind of getting things back on track. And I'll talk more about that. But we watched Willow, one of Cody's favorites as a child. The reason we watched it is because there's a new Willow show that's on Disney Plus, and she was like, we should watch this, but if you guys want to watch the original movie to kind of get up to speed, that would probably be a good idea. And we did that. And Clark and I both liked the movie. I had no idea that it was a George Lucas flick. Lucas Studios had made it, and it's very interesting. Willow is actually, should I say anything about this? Willow is the main character, and he's kind of like a dwarf, and he encounters this baby who is destined to overthrow the evil witch that rules the area. And it's up to him to protect this baby and keep it safe. And he meets other characters along the way. Val Kilmer's in it, which is pretty cool. The Iceman, the Saint, Batman, he's in it. And he was pretty funny. And it's just a really great tale. And there's these little guys called brownies that are really funny too. And it's really interesting to see the technology they used to make this movie when they didn't have the computers and things that we have today. So it was a good watch, definitely good for kids. Would it have been one of my childhood favorites? Maybe, but watching it as an adult, I think a one watch was enough for that. Other movies we watched, though, leading up to that in that week, we ended up watching the Pinocchio movie, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, not the one with Tom Hanks, which I heard isn't that great, but del Toro's Pinocchio was amazing. I think we watched that on my birthday, and that night, after we had that delicious pizza, we watched Pinocchio, and man, it was really well done. I really loved like the animation style, and it turns out, like I thought it was all done on computers, but it turns out that it was actually done using like stop motion. I just thought maybe they slowed the frame rate down, but man, it was so good. It was definitely like more of a dark tale. But I love the music in it. I love the style of it. I loved everything about that movie. In fact, I looked up the IMDb on it, and it had like a 9.9. It was like, wow, people really love this movie. It was so special, and apparently they had been working on it for years and years and years. I think that is on Netflix? No, I think the bad one's on Netflix. I don't know where it's at, but make sure you don't watch the wrong one. This one's like kind of like more adult looking, and Clark liked it, and everybody in the family had a good time watching it. Another movie we had a good time watching, for my second time watching it, but Cody and Clark's first, was Avatar, the original one. There's a movie that I saw when it came out. I actually spent New Year's Eve watching that right after I got off work. Cody and her mom, I think, met me at work or picked me up there. This was in 2009, I believe, when it came out. And they were going to see one of the Twilight movies. You know, the movies with the girl, and then she has a vampire and a werewolf fighting for her affection. They went to see one of those movies, and I was like, I think I'm going to go see Avatar. So I watched that in 3D, and it was an amazing experience. Like, I'll never forget going to see Avatar in 3D. So it turns out that there's a new Avatar movie out called Way of Water, and they were playing that in 3D at our local theater. So we all decided we're going to go see that, even though it was over 3 hours long. But again, I told, just like Willow, I told Cody, you guys might want to watch the original Avatar before you go into seeing this. And I love the original one all over again, watching it, I guess, 13 years later, 12 years later. I can't remember exactly when it came out. I think it was 2009. Still a really great movie with a great message. It really like hurts your soul to see like the corporations come in and try to like destroy this world for resources and money. And it really does feel like what's going on in our world right now. But yeah, if you're going to go see the new one, which again, just like the original, was amazing. We went to see it in 3D, of course, and the effects were incredible. There was also a Mario trailer before that may have sold me a Mario that was in 3D too, like watching the trailer in 3D, and one of the Mario Karts comes flying at you was really cool. But the movie had over like 3 hours long. I think it was like 3 hours, 15 minutes or something like that. It did not feel that long. I did not feel like, oh man, when's this going to be over? It was pretty intense, and there's like this dread that washes over you for like so much of the movie because they're in danger. I'm not going to say exactly what happened, but you can probably imagine there's some drama. You definitely want to watch the original Avatar before you go into this. Like, it picks up not like right when the first one ends, but some years later. But it really would be helpful to know like the backstory on these characters before you go in. And that's on, I think, Disney Plus, so you could watch it for free, assuming you have Disney Plus, because it's a free ride when you've already paid. And then you could go watch the new movie in theaters. So I would recommend doing that. I would love to see it in IMAX, but we don't have anything near us like that. Just like we don't have a Home Depot or a Costco. We don't have an IMAX, just I guess too rural. But I imagine that would be an incredible experience if you have that opportunity. But yeah, we watched it. Clark Man, of course, got a little hungry halfway through the movie. So Cody, like the trooper she is, she went out and got us root beer and a popcorn, which was amazing. She got a small. The small popcorn was literally, for those of you listening, probably over a foot tall, just completely heaped with popcorn. She asked for light butter. It was completely saturated. And the drink was also small and was probably it was probably like an extra large or something at McDonald's or Burger King or something. Like it was just massive. And I think it was like $17 for that, which is just insanity. But ended up dropping probably for the whole thing. I think the tickets altogether for almost $50. That was for 2 adults and 1 child. And then getting 1 popcorn and 1 drink probably put us up to like $70. So I'll say this. If you can avoid the hype of going to see this in the theater and seeing it in 3D and all the majesticness and just wait for it to come out on Disney Plus, which it inevitably will, your whole family can watch it for what, $8-9, whatever Disney is. I'm sure. Did they start raising their prices? It's one of I knew they were in the customer acquisition phase for a long time, and I was like, this $8 per month is too good to be true with Disney. There's way too much content here. I think they recently went into the next stage, which is the Netflix model, where you start cranking up the price little by little over time, and you'll find that most people just kind of let it ride because it's automatically coming out of their credit card or their checking account or whatever. And very few people actually leave, and those that do don't offset the amount of extra money that you make. So Netflix has been doing this for years. I remember Netflix used to be like $8 for streaming and maybe like $8 for like the getting actual physical discs of movies. Then they combined those together and it was like $10 a month or something. And now it's like, I don't even know. It's probably like $20 a month for Netflix. See, I don't even know. They've cranked the price up all these years, and I couldn't even tell you what I pay. It just comes out automatically, and I just accept it because Clark gets a lot of value out of Netflix, and Cody does too, and I guess I do too here and there. In fact, Clark and I just started watching an anime show this morning, but I can't recall the name of it offhand. I'll report back on it because we are about 5 minutes away from completing the first episode, and I think there's 8 episodes, so we have a little bit to go. I'm also watching Attack on Titan, which my nephew recommended. I'm about 2 episodes into that. I started watching the original first episode, Clark Man, but then it was like super violent. So I was like, okay, no, we can't do this. And then I lost it for a bit, but now I'm back. So I might be reporting on those. But Disney Plus, back to their pricing, way too good to be true. I think, like, conservatively, if I were to put a value on Disney Plus with the fact that they own the Disney vault or whatever of all the animated movies and shows, they've got all of the Star Wars stuff, all the Marvel stuff. They've got, I think, National Geographic and a lot of Fox things as well. Like, I really don't think that $20 would be a bad deal for Disney Plus. Don't tell them that. But I could see it going that way, or at the very least, I think what they should do, if they want to make some serious money, put a Star Wars tier on there and put a Marvel tier. So it's like, okay, Disney Plus is $8, right? But if you want to add Marvel onto that, almost like what cable companies do, Marvel will be an extra $4.99. You want to add Star Wars, that's $5.99. And you could really like start racking that up to the point where people are paying all that money. And most people, or at least I think a lot of people would. If you probably like some aspect of Star Wars or Marvel, but maybe it gets to the point there where it's like, well, I'll just buy the Star Wars movies on, iTunes or whatever, Google Play Store, and just watch it digitally. But that's where they come in with the TV shows. And they're like, well, if you want to watch the new Mandalorian season, that'll be $4.99. And it honestly, not a bad idea to do that. Don't hire me as a consultant for Disney, though, because you'll end up paying more money. I mean, if they do the same thing with streaming as that they do at their parks, can you imagine what that would turn into? They're like, if you want to watch the new Mandalorian season right when it comes out, you can buy a Lightning Pass for $3.99 per viewer. We're actually going to scan your living room to find out how many people are watching. Then it'll be $3.99 per viewer, and then you need to pay admission to watch Mandalorian, so that'll be $15 per person. It's the scam that is Disney. The scam that you're happy to let them run on you. I keep thinking about like Disney, and I keep thinking about how much I want to go back, even though I know like it's such a rip. But I'd like to do, I think this would be kind of cool, Disney on a budget, if that's even possible. Stay at one of the places that's like maybe not as expensive, not right on the main course there like we've stayed at. And then don't do lightning lanes. Don't do the park hopper and all that stuff. Just do like maybe like 4 days, 1 day for each of the parks, and call it on that. Fly down on Frontier Airlines or Spirit Airlines or whatever. They're way cheaper. I think they, as long as you don't have like a carry-on, or maybe you can have a carry-on, but you can't have checked bags. I think there's like a cheap way to get down there. We usually fly American. Wonder if we could do Disney on a budget, and how much of a difference experience would that be? Like having to wait in all the lines and not being able to kind of move freely. I don't know. But the way that I've looked at it, and I know like maybe this is kind of dumb, but I'm like, if we only have this opportunity to be here maybe this one, or for us, I guess 2 times. it is what it is. I'm going to pay for the best experience that I can have because we may not get the chance to do this again. In fact, I was watching a YouTube video that was kind of discussing that concept. It was talking about how you should live your life as though this is the last time you're going to get to do that thing that you're doing. Like, when's the last time that you'll be able to pick your son up until he, maybe he's too big, or the last time you'll be able to see the ocean, the last time you get to have whatever experience. There's always going to be a last time for every single thing in your life. You just never know when that is. And I think a lot of us live in a way that we always just expect there to be more of this, like, oh, I'm going to do this every weekend or whatever. Someday it'll be the last time. But if you live your life in a way that you're always thinking about this, like my pizza that I got the other day, right? My favorite pizza. If I think about this being the last time I ever get to eat that pizza, how much more am I going to enjoy it? Or maybe how much more sad am I going to be? Like, oh, why can't I do this again? But anyways, it's just kind of like a mental like thing you can do to appreciate things more. I guess that's what it comes down to, is the appreciation. But yeah, that's kind of what we've been watching and into. I didn't realize that was going to be such a large part of this episode. But that's what we're up to in the winter. Speaking of winter, well, things kind of came crashing down there with, I love the holidays. Anytime after Thanksgiving on is an awesome time. You got Turkey Day, you got Black Friday, you got the Christmas season, you got the holiday decorations, you got all the seasonal stuff, you got the Christmas music, you got Cody baking cookies that I'm eating way too many of. Clark Man's home. We're having a great time. I'm building arcade cabinets. All of that stuff is awesome and all. Family, I guess that goes without saying. But then New Year's Eve hit. New Year's Day is here. We actually do something special on New Year's Day. And I don't know if this is a Pennsylvania thing or if everyone does this. You have to let me know. But we always have pork hot dogs and sauerkraut. It sounds to me kind of like a Pennsylvania tradition, but you make that all in like a pot together. I don't know, baking thing. I'm not the baker of the family or the cook. But you put that all together and you have pork hot dogs and sauerkraut for lunch that day. It's like the New Year's Day dinner. And before, it used to always be like Clark Man's birthday meal too. When we had all the family that lived in the area, we'd all just get together for that and then have Clark's birthday. And I really didn't want to do that anymore, because I don't want him to think like that's his birthday. His birthday needs to be its own thing and special. So the very next day we had family and friends back again to have Clark's birthday, which I made a video on, so you can see that. And he got some cool stuff for his birthday and had a great time. And we had pizza that day as well. Not my favorite pizza, but we had pizza. And that may actually be like the last time I have pizza for a while, because as I mentioned, we have a trip coming up in February that I want to be in my best shape for. Let's just say that. And I really need to get like down there. So I've been really focusing ever since we kind of like January started after Clark's birthday. It was like back to the grind, not only with like making No 0 Days content, which I'm going to be editing up like shortly after I stop recording this, but I'm also making Lego content. I'm doing live streams there. Obviously I'm making this podcast. So I'm like back to work, I guess, even though my work is my hobby. Like this takes time. So I'm getting back into that. I'm really focusing on diet. Like I am pretty much doing one meal a day, and I've cut pretty much all carbs from my diet. Like today we're having seafood for dinner. I think we're having swordfish. We went to a seafood place yesterday. We got like actual tuna. Usually have tuna fish in a can. We got tuna yesterday, and I tried that, and it was like so good. So maybe I'd like sushi. I tried sushi one time in my life from Wegmans, which is a grocery store, and I didn't really like it. But I think if I had like proper sushi, like I've heard all kinds of hype about it, I think that would probably be something I'd be into. But I'm doing like one meal a day. I've cut all the carbs. We're eating lean, and I'm really curious to see how much weight I can possibly lose by the time I go on the trip. I'm also trying to stay strong at the same time too. We're going to the gym pretty consistently. I am putting a lot of time into cardio there, as well as my usual like weightlifting exercises. So I'm doing a little bit of everything, but I think I can live off my reserves for the next month. I have like an entire month to really prepare for this. And I'm curious to see what I can get down to. And I have a goal in mind that I want to hit, and I'm hoping that I can do that, but it's a very aggressive one. But that's how all of my goals are. I can't just do something a little bit. I've got to go all in. But I find that if you keep this top of mind and you're always thinking about it, it's very easy to hit your goals when you're focused. So that's what I'm doing. Maybe I encourage you along with me to do that as well. But yeah, we're just kind of like we're kind of on the grind. One of the rabbit holes, I always talk about YouTube rabbit holes. Speaking of sushi, one of the rabbit holes that I've fallen into is watching videos about Japan. I'm actually watching this dude that's like live streaming his life in Japan, and I find it just so fascinating. I love everything about Japanese culture and Japan in general. He's gone to like Tokyo and all these other countries, and he's like live streaming 24 hours a day. It's really fun to see. So I kind of fell down that rabbit hole. Obviously, we're now watching anime too. Like, I think the algorithm gods have like found me. So YouTube content is pumping now. I watched this guy get this R34 Skyline, his dream car, and he showed like what it's like to live in Japan and shop there. And like, I could see like a Japanese trip for us in the future. Cody, not so much interested in going to Japan just because of how like going to Tokyo is a very like crowded thing. But I think it'd be so awesome to go there and to experience that. So maybe someday, if Cody doesn't want to go, I could certainly, we could do a guys trip. I've had people requesting like another guys week in Japan. Can you imagine how awesome that would be? Dreaming about the future. We've got all of our travel plans booked for this year, so definitely not a 2023 thing. Maybe going into 2024. But this year, we've got a lot of stuff planned, but I'd say for the next month or so, things are going to get a little boring around here. You know, I said we're in the grind. Nothing really to look forward to outside of like that trip that's coming up and the preparation for that, I suppose, which I'm not nearly as excited about. But I'm just going to be working hard, trying to get a whole bunch of content out there to you guys, trying to get podcast out, obviously, and just keep working towards all of my goals, documenting that for No 0 Days. Everything kind of cycles together. Everything kind of like fits. So I'm going to keep working hard as I can, and I guess that's about the best you can do. So on that's this week's episode, more of just kind of like catching you up on all the things that we've been up to the last couple weeks that I didn't really make a whole lot of content. But I think it's good for everybody to have a break every once in a while, even though I don't feel like I really need it. It's just like that editing and the getting sick just took it out of me. So now I'm back, and I'm excited to see what comes of this year. I feel good about this, and I wish you the best as well in 2023. Try to accomplish whatever it is that you've set forth for yourself. And if you haven't set anything forth, set something forth and go out and do it. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a glorious week, and we'll see you in the next episode.